Hello and welcome to chatting shit about the genetic cup. Bit different this time because when Dan uh, sold this idea to me, he sold it to me as a let's teach people how to not be a dick when team building. So then I thought about that and I was like, well, the last thing we should do is have Drew and Cal on here teaching people how not to be a dick. So it's just myself and Dan. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, Matt. I'm good, Matt. Thanks for having me, and thanks for taking me up on this team building when you're not a non-sider. Um,
These are the
yeah,
conversations I like having. Like, I don't want to talk about which tackle user is the best tackle user. I want to talk about this and why,
yeah.
what the implications are for picking something for the rest of your
People
team.
have messaged me and asked me why chatting shit hasn't been about, and I said there's only so much shit you can talk about tackle without it becoming repetitive, and I think that's the place we have been. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that the genetic cup has kind of like sparked some team building joy out of us. So yeah.
yeah, for sure. So it's going to be a bit different. We've not both picked a Pokemon. We're just going to try and go through this logically. We've got a few notes, and we're going to try and give advice that will make your opponents not think you're a dick. Now, we're not saying that's foolproof advice. I've done exactly one sim, so anything that I might say, I'm not going to say pick Lucario, but I'm not going to say it's going to be good advice. And I think you're in a similar boat, Dan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've done a couple of team builds and I've tried to be as sparky joy as I can, but there are certain you start coming around and going, "Oh, Bastion would be good in that team."
and this is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So it's good that we get
Yeah.
this out of our system now. Well, let's start. The first note I've got down is: can we make a case for any mono water that isn't called for alligator?
So for alligator, the gator is really good here. I mean, the gator's good in general at the moment. Fortunately, you can only have the gator in slot one, or you could have it in slot two, but slot one.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, it could be the
You
second.
can
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
you could have it in slot two. Um, which means you can't have it as a shadow. So that's taking out some kind of like, yeah, dickhead factor there. Things you can have in its place. Looking at the things in the meta, I think poison's going to be really good here. So instantly, my thing is okay, what can hit poison really well from the waters? Monotype water is very vast. Out of the three parent types, mono water is the one you've got the most options from. But I see Politoed as being a viable option. You've got Earthquake there, you've got Mud Shot, so you can keep on hitting down there. Milotic um, is it's just hard hitting. It's bulky. It can do a job. Um, out outside the gator, I probably think Milotic will be the second most picked, just because it's sheer dragon breathness, and people like that dragon, not dragon breath, dragon tail. People like that wave of pain coming at people. Um, I actually think Seeking is a good shout. And I can see your face going, no, Seeking's not a good shout. It's something that sounds good because it's triple legacy, but you've got Icy Wind and Drill Run. Both are very good moves. And with the electrics being gone, with the poison jab, you're only really, the grass is being hit back. I think Seeking could have a play outside of the gator. I could talk more about monotop water types. Other good ones that you've got cast form, mainly cast
Mm.
form. You've got thunder there, so at least you're sort of hitting the other waters and stuff like that. Um, you could go full Adelian, you could go Bronny, and charm some motherfuckers.
Right. I'm going to hop in here because when I was looking down the list of water types as to what I might use, I also had the thought of melodic immediately because there'll be plenty of dickheads using shadow dragons in those last slots, and melodic covers that nicely. Rainy Castle I also like because if people are going to if people try and fill in a normal and a dark type to try and slow down for alligator, all of a sudden rainy cast form, and its uh, reliable damage is really good.
Pew
But then,
pew.
pew pew. Then I thought, right, well, if people are going to try and stack, uh, try and include at least one dark type, well, you can't have more than one dark type, I don't think, actually. So maybe Brioni isn't quite as good. Well, obviously it's not quite as good as I thought it might be. It's shit, but if you could have a dark type and potentially a fighting type to deal with dark types, all of a sudden having a charm user in that water slot rather than Feraligatr, which won't do any fast move damage because everyone's got a dark and no normal, it's an appeal there. But all that to say, personally, I don't think there's any point using anything other than Feraligatr.
Not even Welmer.
No, because people like ghosts, and then all of a sudden, if you can't spam body slam effectively, um, I just don't see the point. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think Melodic is the second best option. If yeah, if you but yeah, if you think you're going to be concerned about dragons, and if you think people will be stacking the dark and at normal later in their team to try and counteract for Alligator, but I don't really see the point in Melodic, to be honest.
Yeah, there's not a huge point in it because it's not hitting really anything for super effective. It's not, and it's slow.
Yeah.
And it's a bit boring, to be honest. But it's bulky. It is bulky. Just going back on the ghosts, there is a water type, monotype water that does learn Snarl.
Suicune.
Suicune.
Yes.
Now, Snarl is rubbish.
Yeah.
But Suicune does have a myriad of different charge attacks, and Snarl does gain quite a bit of energy, quite reasonable, I'd say. It's not the slowest in gaining energy. Nothing wants to take a Hydro Pump in the face.
I don't know.
So,
I think the problem Suicune has that Feraligatr doesn't have is Suicune doesn't have any charge moves that can hit water type, so his Feraligatr can at least have Crunch, and I think Crunch is probably preferred here for the ghosts and the masses of water. And I think actually something we haven't mentioned yet, mono water wise, is that if that's what you want, as in you want Hydro Cannon, you want a big neutral hit to hit waters, but you don't want to be walled by dark and normals when you fast move pressure. Samurot's also there.
you see, I looked at Samurott. I've got it on my mega size list here. And I sort of like disregarded it in the sense of Fury Cut is rubbish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And to be honest, what are you even hitting with Mega Horn? Because if you are going to have psychics in here, they're going to be sub-psychics. So, it'll be a secondary typing, so to speak. So, yeah, I just don't know. You're just going to fall in danger of it just doing nothing and Hydro Cannon being your only weapon, in which case you're going back to, you might as well pick Blastoise.
Yeah.
Well,
so we're both pretty much agreed that it's Feraligatr then.
Yeah, it is Feraligatr, unfortunately. I'd love to say it's not.
Okay, right. Cool. Okay. That's good. Well, I'm glad we're agreed on that. Like, I tried really hard. Like I've not spent loads of time prepping for this, like maybe 45 minutes tops. But I tried really hard to come up with just a kernel of an idea for a legitimate argument to argue that something other than Feraligatr is good.
I looked at 11 different water types. I've got a list of them down here. Even Golduck was looked at. Do you know what I mean?
I thought about Golduck, but
move variants, things like that, and Feraligatr is just so good at the moment, which is great because Feraligatr for a long time has been absolutely rubbish. But let's not make it so good that everyone hates it in 6 months.
But I think we should probably be clear on this in the spirit of talking about how not to be a nobhead when you're team building. I don't think putting Feraligatr in your team here makes you a nobhead. I think it's just the way the meta is, right? And some things are unavoidable, and ultimately it's not really one of those brain dead moms, is it? Like it's there's a really high skill ceiling, so I wouldn't ever criticize anyone for using Feraligatr. I don't think.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's move on to the secondary water types then. Do you have any that you particularly like? Or do you have any particular water type or attribute that a water type has that you think is going to be valuable with for Alligator?
So I was looking at the meta, and you look at it kind of like a whole type thing. You know what I mean? So I really liked Polyrath here because for a secondary water type, I wanted that fighting coverage. Polyrath now having access to Icy Wind, as we talked about earlier, you're going to get these nonces who are going to bring shadow dragons and stuff like that. So you are going to want to kind of knock them down a peg or two. Who doesn't love a Skull debuff? And depending on the way the meta shifts, you could run it with Icy Wind and Dynamic Punch, which again is giving you that fighting coverage and stuff like that, preparing for the Regis and the Basti Steels, Bastionons in the back and things like that. Yeah. So that's where my mind was leading. I know when we had initial talks, you had another thought, which I think is the most kind of dominant water type in the game, so to speak. Well, not dominant, but most safest, if you'd like.
Azu?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think what's worth noting is that I think I like that for the same reason as you like Polyrath. It deals with the dark types. It deals with dragons, and it's gonna give her two fingers up to anyone trying to take the piss.
What would you think of the Finny Azu kind of dynamic? Because in recent times we've seen a resurgence. We've seen people, sorry, not resurgence, but people more using Finny over Azu.
See here, I think I'd want to go Azu. Like typically, I prefer Finny because I like Surf, but here I think I'd want Azu because the extra bulk into for Alligator and against poison type, poison jab users, and poison fang users potentially. I think the extra bulk could be really handy, and I think you need Hydro Pump as well, and the potential. Catching a potential unshielded Hydro Pump is always nice. So,
I think another one to keep in mind if you're not going to go, because Azu is expensive. Azu's expensive. If you're a new player, you're not necessarily going to have that or have the XLs to be able to build one, depending on how long you've been around and things like that. I think Dugong is worth talking about here. Your Alligator, your major weakness is your grass.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which can come down in the shadow eligibles later on in the game, or could come in the next phase when you start looking at ghosts and things like Trevenant and stuff like that. Dugong has the ability to not be completely walled by that, and again also has that drill run access. So you are actually taking down things that you wouldn't necessarily. So it kind of hits against the poisons there as well, and has that sort of double effect there. So I do think Dugong is a nice kind of element there. There are other things that do a similarish, you know, the likes of Pelipper. Mantine's got a really big buff recently.
Yeah.
Been a lot of hype around Mantine. Going back to if you're wanting coverage for your darks and you're wanting coverage for ghosts and things, you've got Greninja, which is paper. But you could just run a Gyarados. Do you know what I mean? Crunch somebody.
So it's interesting.
Dragon Breath.
Interesting that you mentioned Greninja because I've actually got that written down as well. So I've got them sort of organised into two sort of boxes. Like if you're going to have Ghost with water, I like Polyrath, I like Azumarill, and I like Araquanid. All protected and really putting hit on the dark types. If you're going to run Poison rather than Ghost, I really like Greninja and Crawdon because that's covering you from ghosts and psychics, which poisons struggle with. Also, I like Dugong as well. That's for the neutral bulk that can take on Fagrigus. But then I also really like Bibarel. I don't know, that's just potentially a dumb thing. But like I say, I've talked already a bit about normal and dark type here to deal with the Fagrigus. And I really quite like the look of Bibarel.
We haven't had a cup in a long time where it's been ace. What was it? Ferocious the last time it was good?
Ferocious, yeah. I don't think it'll be good here. Like I say, I've not done a single sim. So I'm not sitting here and saying use Bibarel. What I'm saying is if it fits your team, don't rule it out because it might make team building later on easier. That being said, and coming back to your point on Pelipper and Mantine, Bibarel also has. So Pelipper and Mantine are flying, Bibarel's normal. I quite like the idea of saving those typings for the unrestricted picks at the end. So they do have knock-on effects on what you can't have else. You can't have in your team if you have those, whereas something like Arachnid in particular, and Dugong, and probably Azuma or Finny as well, those things really keep your options open for the rest of your team building.
You see, that's why I'd totally disregarded Empoleon,
Yes.
which now with Steel Wing is quite effective and is getting quite a nice bit of work to it. And Drill Peck hurts and Nitro Cannon hurts. Everything it does hurts, but that steel typing I do see being more usable further down the line and keeping in your back pocket. So yeah, I definitely think that.
Well, let's move on to Ghost then. So in a similar vein, can you justify any mono Ghost other than Fagrigus?
Mono Ghost, even though Ghost is like a great typing, arguably the best typing in the game, Mono Ghost is shit.
Awful.
I mean, like, it's like really, really bad. There is like 6 Mono Ghosts. Oh, well, 6. You've got the evolutions and stuff.
I'm thinking Fagrigus, Dusclops, Dusknoir,
Houndstone,
Misdreavus, and Mismagius.
I hadn't got Mismagius down on my list, but Dusknoir, Bennett, and
Bennett.
That's it.
Oh, Bennett might be a shout actually.
Bennett dies when you throw out the ball.
No. But okay, so hear me out. So the problem with all of these mono ghost types is that they're all completely fucked by dark. Like Dusklops has return, but doesn't have Shadow Claw, which you really kind of want. Bennett does have return, and it has Thunder. Actually, I mean, again, probably bad.
Really bad. But
you
know Sinister Cup the first time it was around?
Yeah.
Vincey Wincy absolutely nailed it with a return Bennett. Like, I was the only person with one of them, and it was like really brand new and absolutely destroyed people with it. So it can have play in the right hands. Dusclop, you could make an argument for. Dusclop's got more variety in moveset. If you're looking for flexibility and you've got other things covered, so say, I don't know, you picked a Sableye as your secondary child choice, then you could maybe think, okay, well, I'm going to have Dusclops and I'm going to run it with Fire Punch and Shadow Punch, maybe, to give you that sort of variety and flair, if you will. And it's bulky. It's bulkier than Cophagus.
See, I would argue. See, my issue with this with Mono Ghost is, other than return, you've got very little way of dealing damage to dark and normals, and that's whether it's Cophagus, whether it's Dusclops or Bennett. It's not ideal, and people like Sableye, and as a secondary slot, which is where you may have Sableye, that doesn't really do anything different to, in the context of damaging normals and darks, doesn't really do anything different to, to Cophagus. So it's kind of like, the issue. The issue for me is Cophagus stands out as being the best mon in that slot
by a long way.
Yeah, but then in that secondary slot, you probably want Sableye anyway, and that kind of. Well, then what's the point in Cophagus?
You say you would want Sableye anyway. I do think there are variable things in that second slot. I'm sorry, we're going to bleed into the second slot now.
Yeah.
But I think we can do, in the sense that you could look at Annihilate, which is fantastic.
Think about Annihilate. I forgot that existed.
It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so good and has so much variance. Do you know what I mean? Um, you could look at things like Skeledirge again. If we're going to see the steals coming through,
I really
there is
like
some
Skeledirge. I really
for
like
the
it.
for the child. It's almost worth sacrificing the parent,
Mm.
so to speak. So maybe you could go something with like Dusclops, where you're actually going to use it for a bit of variance, but you're going to use the child as your major hitter. You could get your water coverage, dip water completely, and have a Jellicent in there.
Yeah,
You could be an absolute thing of I've got a new toy, let's have a Giratina. Why not?
yeah,
Um, Again, you could be half thinking in your head, I'm gonna come across steals and I'm gonna come across poisons. I want myself an AWAC there.
yeah.
Probably not thinking that, but you could think that. So there is play in that second slot. I definitely think Annihilate probably over Sableye is the number one pick there.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I
Just because the fighting coverage.
what?
And it's got Night Slash. And yeah, didn't get Weather Ball Water, but
See, I think there's a few. I think there's a few here you can make an argument for. I think Trevenant is one you can make an argument for, purely because Feraligatr beats Cofagrigus, right? And
mhm.
I assume Trev
Trev
beats,
will beat. Trev
although
will beat
would it be
even with
CMP? But I could see an argument for Trev for that reason and that reason only, and water resistance. But I think Skeledirge, Annihilate, and Frostlass would be the three I'd choose between because they're doing damage that isn't ghost damage. And I think I take one of those with Cofagrigus and barely use Cofagrigus, to be honest. I think I would pick Cofagrigus because I wanted Annihilate, Frostlass, or Skeledirge.
Mhm. And that's you've got that playing option there.
Yeah.
So as I said, the child is much more important than
Yeah.
the parent.
Yeah, and I mean it opens up ABB options, but
Mm.
it's kind of a little boring. But yeah, I'd forgotten Annihilate exists, and I think
Yeah, that's because you don't play the game enough.
it's true. I was
You're
gonna.
planning a wedding, and Titan Fist is picking up. So
I was gonna sit here and shit all over ghosts, but then like shit, I forgot Annihilate's a thing.
speaking of shitting over Ghost, though, in my team builds, I didn't go Ghost.
I don't think I would go ghost. Although I may
Um,
do now Annihilate's here. I don't know. I, I
uh,
I think dropping ghost gives you more options. But,
yeah, definitely. I was water poison, which was I felt that was nicer to sit in.
yeah, I guess it gives more options. But then, like, are any of those options as good as Annihilate?
Well,
I do have one, and I'll come back to it right at the end that I
yeah.
think can do the Annihilate role to some extent here.
Mhm.
But go on, you were going to say.
No, I was just going to pick out things that can be annihilate further down the line, but I think we're better just carrying on and moving on to them things.
Fair enough. Um, okay, so let's go poison then. Let's
Poison.
talk us through some of your list of mono poisons.
Mono poison is again, I think poison is where it's at. I think there's the most moveset variants that you can have here. Really good options with viable movesets. You've got Mulk and Survivor both with access to dark moves, so really good against your ghosties. Grimer, Swallow, Nidorina have ground moves, so they're beating the other poisons as well. Always trying to keep in mind to have that ground move.
Nidorina, does that have ground moves?
Yeah, it's got Dig.
That's it.
It's got Dig and Thunderbolt, mate.
I don't have Thunderbolt.
It's got Dig. It's got
That's
Dig.
nice. That's nice.
It's really good. It's really
Dig
good.
Thunderbolt. Mm.
I mean, I've been on the Nidorina train for a long time. I told everyone to go out and build one when it was returned Nidorina.
Yeah.
Really good, really fun one. Garbodor, Body Slam.
Yeah.
Get a bit of spam in there. get a bit of spam, infestation for your darks. You've got a grass move as well. Is it grass knot or
Seed
bullet
bomb.
seed bomb?
Grass punch.
Grass punch.
Yeah.
And do you know what? To hit it all home, you got Arbok, which has got Dragon Tail. Let's not forget Arbok has Dragon Tail.
Yeah.
Other than that, you got Wheezing. And what's that silly one? Pipehole.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
Which I don't think learns anything.
It's just like a shitter version of Mock, I think.
Yeah, but it exists.
I'll say that for it. It does exist. It's got that going for it.
It exists. So, but that's where I was with that. So for me, I mean, regular watchers will know Swallow sparks a lot of joy. I've always loved it. I think with it having Mudshot now, so it builds up a bit of energy. It's got obviously Ice Beam and is it Sludge Wave?
Sludge Bomb, yeah.
Yeah, it can hit a lot of different things, and it's doing a lot of different jobs. And I think your parents, you've got to have a bit of versatility and stuff like that because it's the children. That's where you're really, really getting your play. I don't know what your thoughts are on parents for it, but that's.
I have pretty strong thoughts. I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. I'm gonna say Muck will be the best Pokemon in this cup. I think it's got the perfect cover. It's got Thunder Punch for the waters. It's got Dark Pulse for your ghosts. It's got the bulk to make use of them. It's got Poison Jab, which is awesome neutrally. It is single-handedly going to make people put steals and confusion users in the teams, in my opinion. I think you have to team build around Muck. Even Annihilate is going to be. I mean, that's probably about the best Ghost type there is versus Muck, but even that's going to struggle. I just think Muck's too good not to use it, personally.
No, I can see your point. I genuinely see your point, even though Grimer beats it, So.
Well, lots of poisons beat it.
With lots of poisons beat it.
But they don't enjoy beating it. It's a soft win in zeros, right? And when you've got something that can farm down like for alligator can.
You're using your poison to beat your poison.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of good child poisons that beat Muck. And most of them are poisons, to be fair, though, right? That's
yeah. There's some really decent child poisons out there. With a lot of different variants and different moves and things like that. I know you said you were going to save Flying for a later choice, and you had your reasons for that, for doing your mutants, but I just can't get past Golbat. I think Golbat with Poison Fang, he's got his Shadow Ball, which is going to hit them ghosties that are out there. I just think it's a really safe, fun pick. And yeah, has a lot of different play. So for me, I do think that is a very viable option. I don't think people should sleep on Sazazel though, or Sazzle.
That's on my list as well.
Yes.
Let me jump on this. So, my thinking about looking for a child poison was one that has steel coverage. And so I thought Toxicroak will be excellent. Again, Shadow Ball, Ghosties. Probably actually, as much as Annihilate blew my mind a little bit, Toxicroak now is kind of similar here. Mm-hmm. In fact, it resists Dark and is neutral to Ghost, whereas Annihilate doesn't resist Dark and is weak to Ghost. So Toxicroak might lift those Shadow Claws a bit better, in fact, even if it is less bulky. Toxicroak's a good option. Galarian Wheezing with
literally, kid you not, Sizazzle and G-Weezing should not be slept on. Is the exact words I've got written.
G-Weezing and Sizazzle, incredible picks. I truly think that because people are going to bring steals, or at least one steal, and if you've got unless your initial poison is neither inner with dig, if you're going to have two poisons, one of them needs to be thick steels.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
So,
No.
so you could. So if you wanted Golbat, you might want to go Grimer.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You could go Grimer because you're still getting that, and that's why I thought Swallow because you've got. Well, it's got Mudshot, hasn't it? So I know you're not taking it down that quick, but you are getting there eventually. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you run Rock Smash, you know.
I think that's probably gets you there slower than Mudshot. To be honest, it's not. It's
yeah.
not. It's not cribominable using Rock Smash down. Come on, it's
Yeah.
no stab behind it.
There are other things though. Other things that's worth mentioning. Sneasler, definitely worth mentioning. I know it's paper thin and stuff like that, but it has still got quite a bit of pace behind it there. You've got Dragalge, which again,
Yeah.
nice wave of damage. It's a similar sort of essence to Milotech. You know, you could technically run a team where you had two Dragon Tail users that are neither dragon. You know?
Well, the nice thing about Dragalge is that it walls Registeel in the to the extent that anything walls Registeel, right? But we'll come on to the steals, but Registeel is the steel to use here.
Yeah.
But so having that, being able to take those hits is actually really nice for the Dragon type.
You could choose this point if you were really worried about the waters to bring in a Venusaur, because that is an option for you here.
Shout. What a shout! Yeah.
Or you could go Beedrill Morton and bring in Drapion. You know, again, you're getting the crunches off and stuff like that.
So I want to put a different suggestion to you because I think these things that we talked about, the wheezing, the Salazzle and Toxicroak in particular, work well if you're pairing it with Ghost. Because is that right? Of my notes, maybe this is bollocks, but anyway, that's one sort of flavour of child poison. Another one is the dark poison, and I actually like a lowland muck as my preferred dark poison here.
Yeah,
because I like the idea. So because muck, you know, as much as it's got dark pulse, it is dark pulse it gets in it. But either way, as much as it gets that, it's still not going to want to take on ghosts. And of all the dark poisons, a lowland muck with snarl, dark pulse, sludge wave is by far the best of the dark poisons to take on ghosts and psychics.
so you wouldn't go acid spray just to troll people?
No, because this is about not being a knobhead.
Oh yes, I keep forgetting we're not being nobheads.
Yeah, so if I'm picking the dark poison, I'm going a lowland. I think. And I think Drapion without the
Could
shadow
you go
is a bit
Skuntank there, and because you're getting the flamethrower?
could do. Could do, but I think I'd want.
You want to actually get to moves faster, so you want
Yeah,
the style because
it then doesn't achieve what Muck isn't achieving against the ghosts. So I think I'd rather go G-Weezing over Skuntank because I can spam.
you get into the brutal springs quite quickly, and you've still got an overheat.
Yeah, reciprocated Chris Ridge. So yeah, maybe G-Weezing is a good middle ground, perhaps between the two. Yeah, and so here's why I put them in different buckets. If you're running a water type as with your if you're running water and poison as your selected types, you really want your second poison type to be good against Trevenant because Muck isn't really that. So the dark poison is about as good as you get there. So that's something to consider as well. But yeah,
Muck's not terrible against Trevenant, surely.
No, it's not. But it can.
What? Just not having any of the stab, it gets the
Yeah.
shadow balls too quickly. And
Yeah, and Thunder Punch doesn't do any chip to it. Like it's risky baiting for a Thunder Punch, whereas it isn't to do that against and then Jellicent, for example, or anything else, any of the ghosts. Yeah, it's just not quite as comfortable. So that's and that of course only gets worse if you're using a poison type, a mono poison type that doesn't have coverage for ghosts. So like if you're running a Nidorida, for example, like all of a sudden you really need your secondary poison to be traveling.
So you're saying you would run double muck?
I'm saying I would be very tempted to run double muck. Yeah. I really, really like Toxic Rogue. I really, really like Salazzle. And I really, really like Hello.
And G-Weezing.
I'm less keen on G-Weezing. G-Weezing here seems more of a jack of all trades, master of none.
Here's a question, Matt. Do you even have a Salazzle?
Yes, I do.
How on earth do you have one?
I got very, very lucky. I think I hatched like 4 or 5 Salandit before I got my female. It's like a 1 in 6. It's like a 1 in 16 chance, isn't it, or something like that?
Well, I've hatched more than 16 of them, and I'm telling you, I've not had one. So.
Oh no, I got very. Well, or did someone trade it to me? My phone's all the way over there. I'll check, but I'm pretty sure I hatched one.
Nice.
Yeah, I know,
no,
right?
I'm genuinely impressed. I'm genuinely impressed, mate. Yeah, I'm genuinely impressed.
And something.
You were the person who forgot Annihilate existed, so I'm genuinely impressed. That you've got one. No, not gonna lie.
No, fair enough. Yeah, I'm a little bit impressed as well. But it got to the point where it's not one of those bonds that I take for granted for having, right? And so when I was looking through the poison types, I saw it on the list. It's like, oh, I've got one of those. Yeah. So.
But again, this is the thing. Sometimes you've got to spark joy, and I'll be honest, Salazzle does give great amount of options.
Yeah.
It hits things that, and it has Poison Fang, doesn't it?
Incinerate, Poison Fang, Dragon Pulse, and Fire Blast.
So I think you'd run it with Dragon Pulse here, wouldn't you?
100%.
Just for the nuke.
For the waters, yeah.
So again, that's something that is. Yes, it can have bad matchups coming into waters and things like that, but you're gonna leave waters hurt on the way out. I just think it's got fantastic amount of play. So if you have got one, it might be one to explore with, and again leads you away from sort of that terrible RPSness.
And the whole point of, in my mind at least, the whole point of having this whole parent-child pairing is that you want those two to, between them, cover as much of the meta as is possible. And I would be shocked if there was a better pairing than Muck and Salazzle in Poison, to be completely honest. I think that's just awesome.
Fair enough. Yeah. Is there any types you don't think you would take here?
What, out of the water goes Poison?
Just because obviously in your child you're getting the options of different typings and things like that. Is there anything that you're really going to try and avoid?
Yeah.
We don't think is necessary. I mean, I've got types in my mind which I don't feel are hugely necessary.
Yeah, I will 100% be trying to avoid fairy types because I think Poison's popular. I keep going back to it. Steel's going to be popular. I've mentioned Dark, but it is kind of difficult to shoehorn Dark in there. So I don't really see, and I think Steel being popular, you don't necessarily need the fairy to deal with dragons.
Even though Azu is so good.
I think I'd try and avoid it personally. Like if I could make a team work with Poliwrath or Araquanid, I would try and do that. Yeah.
You see, I don't think I'll have a place for a dragon on my team.
I don't see the reason to have a dragon.
No, I don't see the reason to have a dragon at all.
The nice thing about dragon typically is that it resists water, fire, grass, electric. Like it shuts down those RPSE circles, but those RPSE circles aren't here. The reason you're picking a dragon here is to create RPSE circles, which is kind of like why. There's no benefit. There's no benefit to having a dragon. Only downside. So,
Unless you are trying to be a knob with your team build, in which case pick all the dragons, mate. Go for it. But generally, try and stay away from that. I think grass is going to be a tough brink.
see, I disagree here. I disagree.
I just think poison is so good, and unless you're talking about a grass with inherent resistance, then what's the point? Do you know what I mean? It's I don't think Credelia's got a place, for instance. I don't think Tangrowth has got necessarily a place.
It wouldn't be where I'd go. Where I'd go would be. So well, let's move on. We've said enough. We've said enough about poisons, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'd moved away from poisons.
And we both agree that at first glance, we think as good as Annihilate is, we'd be Team Water and Poison. We think.
Yeah, I definitely think.
Okay, so that's what we do. Although actually, I may revisit that, given that
now that you've realised Annihilate
exists, I may actually revisit that. But I do think that actually Toxic Rope probably does just as well. So, okay, so yeah, on the grass types, Ferrothorn.
Yeah.
Is Shadow eligible? It's going to be a really good Feraligatr counter. Resist poison. It's got that bolt to go neutral against ghosts, aside from Skeledirge. I think Ferrothorn. The only problem is that there are a few ways to get fighting types in between Poliwrath, between.
It's not a simple match for a Theraphon.
No.
Poliwrath is not an easy matchup for it.
No. Although it needs. Because now they don't run fighting moves, charge moves anymore. I'd have thought Ferrothorn would be fine. I know Shadow Poly with Dynamic Punch is the only water that beats Ferrothorn. But that was a long time ago. That comes from back from the Sinister Cup when I used to play the game and I used to actually think about this. So a lot's changed since then.
I just meant it's not a comfortable matchup. That's all. It's not a straight win.
Yeah. So there's Ferrothorn, which you probably want. You probably want Flash Cannon with Power Whip here, the Dragon coverage, just in case.
Just in case.
In case. And then, could you go? No, you need Power Whip. Because then you lose the Ghost with that. You lose the Cavalrius with that Power Whip. Yeah, I'd probably go Flash Cannon Power Whip. Yeah. But then another one I also really, really like is Meganium. Because you have like the inherent bulk plus Frenzy Punch being a busted move will give you the ability to beat Pythagoras, and then you'll also be able to really fuck up the poisons with the Earthquake, unless that poison is, of course, Golbat. So,
then it doesn't like Golbat doesn't like getting Earthquakes, mate.
Well, neither Salazzle certainly doesn't, but I don't think. I don't think they have to worry too much about Meganium from the Salazzle's point of view. So, yeah. So,
no.
Yeah, grass. I would agree on the whole. Grass types would be a no for me, but Ferrothorn and Meganium would be the two that I would consider.
You see, I thought Steel would be useful elsewhere, which is why I sort of stayed away from Ferrothorn because, I just think there are other uses for Steel typings.
So, what would you want your Steel to do that Ferrothorn doesn't?
So, I quite like Shadow Scizor. I think I've said that to you before. I think it beats out any of the fairies that could possibly be in there, which I do think Azu is going to be a thing. I think you are going to get many, many people who are going to go Route 1. They're going to go Pythagoras, Sableye, Feraligatr, Azu. And suddenly my Shadow Scizor is looking really, really healthy there. It's looking like I want to have a dinner with you guys. So yeah, let's go. So that's where I was sort of feeling that my steel could come in play. There are other options though. This Skarmory, as you talked about earlier, of like leaving out your flying till later on. So Skarmory is a definite option. And now the fact that you can have a return Skarmory as well, so you're not necessarily using the Brave Bird, you are still hitting a multitude of different things. And let's not forget Registeel. I don't like Registeel. I don't want to run Registeel. It's not as degenerate as I make out on occasions, and I do make out it's degenerate just because everyone got one and it seemed a lazy play for people because it has cross coverage. But it's not in the right hands. It's it's not that bad.
And I think actually as well, further to that, in the wrong hands, it's not very good at all.
Hmm.
Which, so again, like, I don't see Registeel as being an nobhead pick. I see Bastiodon as being an nobhead pick. I see Steelix as being an I just don't see why
Can't
you
pick
would.
Steelix, it's ground.
Oh, perfect. Even better. So,
Shame on
why?
you, Matthew, for slipping in a ground pick.
I know. Who would ever have done that? I might change my thoughts about the edit now.
Totally should.
Flashback.
But there is something that does do very, very, very well against it in the child slot, and that is Clodsire.
Clodsire, which happens to be ground type, so it's.
Oh gosh,
There we
bugger!
go.
There we go. I've crossed that off my list. 2 pages worth of research, and I've crossed it off my bloody list.
We've only got a minute left on this call. I didn't think it'd time out, but I'll edit that out.
End of flashback.
Yeah, there is no reason, unless you are really, really scared of Dragalge. I don't see a reason to run Bastiodon here over Registeel. Like, I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's not come to mind in the hour that we've been talking and the hour that I spent thinking about this, and it's not even entered my mind once. Like, yeah, I think a Lowland Sandslash is fine as well.
Yeah, I was going to say I had the Lowland Sandslash down as a potential pick, just because again there's that fear of the dragons and things like that of people coming in with it. So yeah, being able to touch on that.
I think in a Lowland Sandslash team looks very different to
Would you run it with Shadow Claw?
Well, here's why I think the team looks different, because for Relegator, the Feraligatr counters here will also like inherently counter Cafagrigus and probably Sandslash as well. So you don't want. I mean, you probably don't want two of them together, but you certainly don't want all three. But then, if you're running Powder Snow and all of a sudden Water's resisting that, and your opposing Steels are resisting that, you're not really getting the farm down and the chip damage that you need to support the damage from Drill Run and Ice Shard. So it's kind of Sandslash is in kind of a strange place here, which is why I just wouldn't net at all. But I wouldn't shit on anyone for picking it. I just like, especially if the team was different. Like I could 100% see yourself picking Sandslash if you didn't run for Alligator Rock and Fabricus. Like, for 100%, I could see that working. And
but you're running for Alligator.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's other interesting picks in the mutants. I think there are other really kind of that we've not touched upon.
Well, before we do that, let me just mention some of the normal types and the flying types that I've kind of been hinting to, because those are normals and darks, and the normals and darks are what's going to inherently counter for Alligator and Cafagrigus. But a lot of the good ones are flying, and you kind of want that as well to avoid the counter uses. So Pidgeot and Staraptor are both eligible. If you wanted to be spicy, you could get Honchcrow or Murkrow. Wouldn't suggest it in the slightest. But then you've also got Snorlax and Alolan Raticate. Problem being is that if you want to get 2 of these in your slots, which you may do, you may want to, you may not want to, it's kind of difficult to do that because the only good dark type there, I mean, Tyranitar is also a thing, Shift is also a thing, but really the only bulky dark type that's eligible in that slot is Alolan Raticate, which is kind of fine and is good. Like, I like Alolan Raticate. I think it's a good mon, but then that locks you out of normal as well. Whereas you may want to use your normal slot on a Pidgeot or a Staraptor, and then have a Dark Poison or a Shiftry or a Crawdon further up your pick, or a Sableye further up your picks, for example. So I think it's important to really think about how you want to use your flying type, if you want a flying type at all, and then the knock-on effects that has on how you're going to play against ghost teams.
Did you mention Snorlax there at all?
Yes.
You did.
I sort of glazed over it, but yeah.
Glazed over it, because I think Snorlax is actually really quite good there.
Yes.
Having access to Earthquake, Body Slam. I would run it with Earthquake, Body Slam. I don't think you've got a need for Superpower necessarily. And the lick damage as well. I just think that's got some sort of play. There are other normals available. You know, you could look at something like a Girafarig. You know, have a Confusion user on your team. I mean, let's not forget, Hypno is available. You know,
the problem with Confusion users, and again, like I'm building all this on the assumption that dark types are going to be really good here. So that's why I don't know that I'd want a Confusion user.
What about Gallade?
See, Gallade is the other one. I've got 2 other Pokemon written down. Gallade is one of them. I think Gallade could be awesome. Like, really, really good.
Because I thought in a Gym Breakers style meta where you can change you can TM between rounds and things like that, Gallade might be actually a nice one, because when you see your opponent's team, you can then actually go, okay, well, I'm going to run Charm on him this time, or I'm going to run Confusion, or I'm going to stick with Psycho Cut and, you know, just Leaf Blade through them, you know, so.
Yeah. See, I my instinct is that Confusion would be the way to go, Gallade here, personally, because with Leaf Blade and Close Combat, you're kind of not doing much against the ghosts and the poisons, which are going to be the bread and butter of this cup in places, right? And yes, Psycho Cut's going to get you to your charge moves much faster, but realistically, you're not going to get to 3 of them anyway, right? It's unlikely, or maybe it isn't, I don't know. But I don't think going Psycho Cut gets you to an extra move. Certainly not an extra 2 moves. To the point where having the confusion damage against ghosts and poisons is worth the trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'll caveat that by saying I've done 0 sims. It's just
a strong belief.
I wouldn't even say it's a strong belief. It's an instinct. Okay.
Yeah, just musing with it this time. Yeah. Musing.
So Gallade is the one that I've got written down, and the other is Charizard.
Charizard. Again, I've got Charizard highlighted there in yellow.
Okay.
There's several highlighted, but they were out of all of them, those are the ones I picked out. Charizard's just good. Yeah. It's just good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can run right over things if given a chance. I know there's a lot of reasons not to run Charizard here, because water, I think there's always water is the consistent.
But the first water is for Alligator, which isn't massively pressuring Charizard any more than Charizard is pressuring for Alligator, assuming Wing Attack Charizard at least. And the second water is Polyrath, Araquanid. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. It's the second water's Polyrath. Or Araquanid. But, I mean, we laugh, but Polyrath's going to be very, very popular.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, where are your Charizard counters? I mean, aside from the fact that really any team can out neutral it with shields, it's kind of a yeah. And then I guess also is something to be said for you probably don't want Charizard with Salazzle at the same time either. So
No, you don't really want them. But
yeah,
if it's a Shadowzard, you know, when we were talking about Muck's bulk earlier, Muck isn't gonna want. It's not gonna enjoy taking a Blast Burn.
God no.
You are taking shields, anything switching into it, with the exception of some of your waters. But even Arachnoid isn't going to want to switch in there because it's going to hurt.
Then one wing attack is going to do enough.
Yeah.
You could probably just do a Dragon Claw and farm down.
It's got Water Pulse, hasn't it? Arachnoid now.
Yeah, but is anyone actually going to run it? Because it's not as good as you would want it to be. Like, Bubble Beam probably still is the way, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. People are strange.
That is true. That is true.
People are strange. I mean, you're going to get somebody just running Shadow Gramble, Bastiodon. For the secondary poison, they're going to run Shadow Vic. You know, you're going to get these people who are going to come out and the team's going to be, for the water, they're going to have Milotic. For the poison, they're going to have Arbok. For the other poison, they're going to have Dragalge. You know, these people do exist, you know.
I don't know. I try to avoid it. I don't know. But that's, yeah. I wonder, actually, now. I mean, Vic obviously has a reputation, but with Magical Leaf, it might be legitimate now. But it's got some serious marketing to be done on its side, isn't it?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Shadow Vic. It's a definite play style, certainly in GBL and things like that. It's when you're just wanting to tap through games, and you know, it's definitely got a thing. I don't think Magical Leaf adds anything to it. I think if anything, it just, yeah, it's the answer to a question nobody was really asking. You know,
so what else did you have on your list then? Because that's literally my list of potential mutant things. Just a very
you
short
see,
list.
I had stuff that's there that I'm not necessarily saying should go for or really use, but they're just there. I thought A9 was really good. I would have run it with Powder Snow. Again, just because it gets quite quickly to things. Web Ball is effective, it's useful, and it's hitting things down quite quickly. So I quite liked that. You could go and have a Dragonair or a Shadow Dragonair, which again, now it's got Body Slam, it's hitting a multitude of different things. But again, as we talked earlier, you are sort of leaning into that RPS then, and you have to be mindful that you're really kind of pushing down on that. If a Bomber Snow's not doing anything, do you know what I mean? Gardevoir's not doing anything that Gramble's not doing. Hitmontop could be interesting. Could be.
I'd rather go Hitmonchan.
It's got Trailblaze.
I'd rather go Thunder Punch. It's got legs.
It's got legs, so it's got Trailblaze. That's the rule, isn't it?
No, I'd rather go Hitmonchan for Thunder Punch, I think.
And the only thing I had was Ledian, which again,
Okay.
it's because I got one, you know. So
I've
it was just
got
fun.
I've got one.
Oh yeah,
It's a Dynamic Punch, isn't it?
yeah, it's got Dynamic Punch. It's got nothing else that's remotely useful. But, you know,
Bug by Aerial Ace, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but that was pretty much it on this. I think there's room in this cup to have fun. I think hopefully people will listen to this and seeing the different variances that they can go in the ways that they can choose to team build and still come out with a team at the end that's viable.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as you go water poison, because water ghost is just you're going down a RPS route.
Yeah, I could see ghost poison working, and then sticking Jellison in there if you
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to. But yeah, I I don't know. I know you're a Man United fan, so you may not be up to date with Sheffield United's managers, but I'm sure you know Neil Warnock.
Yeah.
He always used to have a thing: enjoy it, but enjoy it by being fucking disciplined. Right? I think this is enjoy it, but enjoy it by having a fucking feraligator. I think I think that's the big takeaway from this.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, in practice tournaments, I am going to try seeing what I can do with the Sea King. Because I don't really want to use Milotic. And you got to try something. But
So if I could see how people might look at this and think, I have no idea where to start building for this, and I have no idea what the measuring stick should be for is this a good mon in this cup. If someone asked you what makes a mon good in this cup, would you have an answer for that?
you want, and you want a parent that beats the other parents.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
would
yeah.
make a good mon in this cup.
Let's see that.
Yeah. And synergy between your parent and child. Your child must cover your parent's weaknesses.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
then the rest of it, play with your heart. Build with your heart and play with your blood.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think for me the big thing is if you have a mon in mind and I don't know if it's going to be use or not, think about it in relation to for Alligator, for Fabregas, Muck, Registeel. Does it have play against at least? Does it beat one of them really well? Right? Does it have play against most of them? Does it, is it completely fucked up by one or two of them? And use that as your measuring stick. That would be.
I'm trying to think. Does anything beat all four of them?
I would be very surprised if so. I mean, you're looking at a fire or a fighting type immediately to deal with Registeel. And then fires lose to water, and your fighters lose to your poison and ghost. So it's going to be difficult to do that. You're probably looking at Annihilate, to be honest. Annihilate or Toxic Rope, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Very dark fighting types. Scrafty's not shadow eligible, is it?
No.
No.
I was thinking about that before. I was thinking of so many good things that you could have in that last slot, and it has to be shadow eligible, which makes it more of a team builder. I know that when Devon first started, they wanted it to not necessarily be for everybody, but to be for the more hardcore PvPers. I do think this is a more hardcore PvPers sort of meta. Sure. I think if you don't know how to team build, it's not going to be easy for you. So
yeah, but it's a hardcore players meta in the right way, because it's a sit down, think about what you're going to do, not sit down, pick 6 tackle users and learn the matchups.
Yeah,
this is the right way to do hardcore players meta.
Well, both of us have sat down and wrote notes. When was the last time you wrote notes?
Well, oh Jesus, 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, but I mean, we posted chatting shit, and I usually do try and make a good effort and make myself a lot of notes and things like that and stuff. But this season, I've really struggled in, it just picks 6 tackle users off your pop. Do you know what I mean? And it's been sort of that kind of way.
Yeah.
And with this one, I only played last month because I could use Galleries and Moltres. That was the only reason. I was like, I really always wanted to use this in a tournament. I don't care if I win or lose. And that was me last month,
And it's like we did one episode for each of the first 2 cups, but we just struggled to find things to talk about in the second episode. This we could have done 3 episodes on if I was interested at all in doing it. But if they put out more like this, maybe I will be one day. Who knows?
Yeah. There's the thing. People comment. You want team building videos? You want videos of tournament runs? Because Matt used to do videos of tournament runs way back when.
That was when I was an okay player, though.
If you want varied content. You say okay player. You play GBL now. You hit legend all the time. Serial legend.
No, I don't. I did 2 seasons in a row. This season, my elo is less than 2,100. Genuinely, as we sit here right now, less than 2,100.
Yeah, but you are planning your wedding, mate. You have been busy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, them pies weren't going to eat themselves, were they? So Sorry. Nothing like a bit of fat shaming to end the video, is there?
I know, yeah. On that, thank you very much for joining me.
Have fun, guys.
Yeah, enjoy.